Speaker, I rise to express deep concern over the allocations in H.R. 2584, the Interior and Environment Appropriations Bill for 2012. To begin, the bill cuts $1.7 million for technical assistance and maintenance assistance in the United States territories. This small amount of money pays big dividends in the islands. The Northern Mariana Islands was just awarded $1.2 million in technical assistance funding to develop geothermal resources to generate electricity. We pay up to 40 cents per kilowatt hour now because we have to buy expensive foreign oil to power our generators. Technical assistance funds are helping to develop our own domestic energy resources, and cutting these funds sends us in the wrong direction, back into the arms of foreign oil interests. I do appreciate the small increases in the bill to fund water and sewer projects in the Northern Mariana Islands and the other territories. I am disappointed, however, that the bill targets the Environmental Protection Agency for overall cuts in the funding that provides federal assistance to ensure clean air and water for all Americans. As the ranking member of Fisheries, Wildlife, Oceans, and Insular Affairs Subcommittee, which has jurisdiction over U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, I am also troubled over the allocations in this bill, which would be devastating for the environment and for the preservation of America's natural heritage. H.R. 2584 provides inadequate funding for the Fish and Wildlife Service at levels 21% below fiscal year 2011 and 30% below the President's fiscal year 2012 request. The bill cuts provide a meager $22 million in funding for the state and tribal wildlife grants program, 64% below fiscal year 2011 and 77% below fiscal year 2012 President's request. This is a program that makes small investments now to avoid large expenses later. It provides money to states and tribes to take voluntary conservation actions to stabilize declining fish and wildlife populations now, and this helps avoid endangered species listings later. In my districts, these grants help implement a wildlife action plan, conserving wildlife, and I might add, creating jobs. The bill also cuts the Fish and Wildlife Service Cooperative Landscape Conservation and Adaptive Science Program, 35% below the fiscal year 2011 levels and 47% below the fiscal year 2012 President's budget. This program supports the work of federal, state, tribal, and local partners to develop strategies to address climate impacts in wildlife on local and regional scales. The Northern Mariana Islands and other insular areas are on the front line of climate change. We face the impacts of sea level rise, ocean acidification, and increasing typhoon intensity. We need this program to develop science-based tools and solutions to conserve natural resources and help us adapt to the many negative effects coming at us as the earth grows hotter. H.R. 2584 continues and also cuts funding for the National Wildlife Refuge System to 7% below fiscal year 2011 and 9% for the 2012 request. The National Wildlife Refuge System is the world's finest network of protected lands and waters. We have refuge in every state and in nearly every territory, including the Northern Mariana Islands. These refuges conserve our fish and wildlife resources, but they also have a huge economic benefit. Millions of people visit refuge each year to hunt, fish, and observe wildlife. The refuge system generates $1.7 billion in sales for local communities and creates nearly 27,000 jobs annually. Every dollar spent in the refuge system by the federal government returns about $4 to local communities. And we can assume every dollar we cut means $4 less for our local communities. I have introduced legislation, H.R. 2236, that would generate funds for the refuge separate from the appropriations to the sale of semi-postal stamps to address operations and maintenance backlog. But this is no substitute for money being cut in H.R. 2584. Also cut is the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which is used to acquire lands and conservation easements from willing sellers and landowners to provide operational efficiencies and connectivity within the refuge. At a Fisheries, Wildlife, Oceans, and Insular Affairs Subcommittee hearing this year, we heard from stakeholders as diverse as the Defenders of Wildlife and the National Rifle Association, who recognize the importance of Land and Water Conservation Fund, which I might add is generated by offshore oil and gas drilling revenues. H.R. 2584 provides only $15 million to this program, 73% below fiscal year 2011 levels and 89% below the fiscal year 2012 President's request. I strongly oppose H.R. 2584, which rolls back necessary funding to support hunters, fishermen, recreationists, and local communities who depend on the environment for their livelihoods, and which undermines ongoing conservation, public health, and environmental protection for all Americans. And I yield back my time, Mr.